Hi, everyone. We're getting everyone let in from the lobby here, and we're getting started with our webinar momentarily as we get all of you joined. Welcome, welcome. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, welcome. Get more and more joining. This is awesome. So glad to have you all here. We'll do quick introductions first. Actually, housekeeping first. Thank you so much to Savvy from Sign Language Interpreting Professionals and Karen from Caption First for providing important access for our event today. You can access captions just by navigating to the captions and teams. If you're watching this on YouTube later, they will be activated via the captioning link button on the YouTube player. And you can click on Savvy once we open the presentation to make sure you keep focus on Savvy if you need Savvy larger for access in this as well. So excited for us to get started. I'm Gerald Homey. I'm the Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition and Technology here at Bender Consulting Services. I've been working at Bender. It'll soon be 19 years that I've been working here at Bender next month. And I get the privilege of leading efforts we do in recruitment and workplace mentoring and digital accessibility and internal technology machine that keeps Bender moving. I have a nice collection of hidden disabilities. I have dyslexia, dysgraphia, PTSD, anxiety disorder, and migraine disorder. And my father, Jim, was the very first person with a disability that our founder, Joyce Bender, ever placed into a job. So I'm super passionate about our mission of competitive employment for people with disabilities. And I'm here joined by our manager of talent acquisition, who works for me, all-star on my team, Jill Zomp. You want to introduce yourself, Jill?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Zomp. I'm the all-star on his team. No, I'm just joking. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today. I have been wanting to do a webinar about this for so long. I have been at Bender for almost 10 years now. I am the manager of talent acquisition. I oversee the team, getting all the great people over to all the awesome opportunities out there for people with disabilities. But for today and talking about interviews and how important it is to be prepared for your interview. This is something that is a very, very close to my heart thing that I like to talk about. And I'm just so excited to be able to do this today. I feel that this is content that everybody out there should know and have been looking for a long time. So I hope that this is going to be as beneficial to you as I've been trying to make the content. So Gerald, do you mind if we get it started?
Let's do it.
Right, I'm going to share my presentation and when you could see it.
All right, it's up. I can see the
All right,
presentation, Jill.
interviewing skills and tips. As everybody knows, Bender Consulting Services, we focus on the employment of people with disabilities for competitive employment opportunities. And part of that is interviewing. And this is across the board, everybody, everywhere. We want to show how you can show your value to a potential employer while also building your confidence, because I think those are probably the two biggest things that everybody is always wondering, how do I do this better? So this is what we wanted to focus on today. All right, we're gonna dive right in. If you don't mind, Gerald, I'm gonna take first
Yeah,
swing at this because this is just as important. Everyone thinks, oh gosh, I have an interview. You need to be prepared right off the bat. Right now, this is such an employer market, as I think everybody probably knows. Anyone who is searching for a job right now is a very, very different market for any job seeker. So everybody's applying to hundreds of jobs, just trying to get anything moving. And because of that, you need to keep track of where you're applying. Because if somebody is calling you, remember they have hundreds and hundreds of applicants too, and you could set yourself apart by simply knowing about the job they're calling you about. And it may not be at the top of your head, but you may be able to go and look at your resources that you have saved and the detailed notes that you have saved and be able to go in and really showcase that you know what you're talking about and you know why you applied to this job. So track everything. I cannot express how important it is to track it. Also, when you do, keep the job descriptions. Remember, you look at the job description and you say, I'm qualified for this. You want to keep those job descriptions because by the time they're calling, those job descriptions may be gone. And asking a potential employer to send you the job description is not always the best look. So you want to have that. So keep however you want to do it, but you want to keep detailed of when you applied as well as the title and then what the description said, because you want to know what the job is. I am a spreadsheet person. I'll be the first to say it. I think everyone who has ever met me knows I'm a spreadsheet person. I would keep it in a spreadsheet, but you do not need to keep it in a spreadsheet. There are so many ways you could do it. A document, send yourself an email, however you want to do it. As long as you keep yourself organized, you are already going to set yourself up above the rest. Things that I
And
recommend including, oh, I'm sorry, Gerald, go on.
I was going to say, you may ask yourself, why do I need that job description? And you'll hear why as we talk about this, because it becomes key to how you prepare for that interview so that you are successful. You know how to be ready to talk about how you fit that role and knock that interview out of the park.
Yes, it is so important. And anybody who has ever taken my advice, which thank you to all of those who have only ever said, I am so glad I saved this information. Just so everybody knows, it's not something that everyone goes, oh, there was no point to that. Because when it comes up, it's usually, oh, I didn't remember I applied to that a month ago. What is this job again? And versus, oh, okay, this is fantastic. This job is looking for X, Y, and Z skills. I'm so glad that I know what they're looking for. I say make sure at bare minimum means you can always add more. Bare minimum of things to include would be the company, the job title, when you applied, the job description, and if there is a contact person. So if you're applying through LinkedIn and you see a specific recruiter attached to the position, or if it says something and indicates something on the actual company's website when you applied, and it says who the person would be a contact for, keep that. If they have contact information too, make sure you track that as well. Very, very important in your job search. All right, I
So,
think oh, yeah, go on, Gerald. I was gonna say we think we hit a lot of these, but go for it.
yeah, so why being organized matter and why having been able to reference this, you never know where you're going to hear from a recruiter. So often you apply for a job, you forget about it, you think you're out for that role, you may hear from that job weeks, months later. I had somebody hear from a job 6 months after they applied for it. um, and you want to be prepared so that you can knock it out of the park when you communicate with that recruiter, that hiring manager about that role. So you have control on what you say. You can tailor your response so you know how does your background fit the role. You know, regardless of what happens, the response of, I'm sorry, I really didn't keep track of that from months ago. That may be true, and you may not get judged for that response, but it doesn't serve you in that response instead of how impressive it is to go, oh, yeah, 6 months ago or a month ago, yeah, I applied for that role. This is why I'm a fit for that job. This is what my background is. This is why I know how I can knock it out of the park when you're talking with that team to give yourself the best shot to land it, which gives you that mindset. Just the second you talk with anybody about a role at a company, treat it like an interview.
Yes. Everybody, everybody you talk to will be able to put notes in under your candidacy. So remember, everyone that you're talking to, you are reflecting yourself and your hopeful future employee status with them. So it's very so important. And I cannot say that enough. And I know a lot of people out there that have been applying over and over again. We've heard it over and over again that, they get the calls and they're just so confused the first time. And you want to make sure you're always putting your best foot forward with everybody. So you may not be right at, like I said, right off the tip of your tongue, but knowing that you have that resource and you could say, okay, great, let me go check my tracker. Sounds a lot better than who are you? What is this? What company? Are you spam? Those are the things that you want to try to avoid saying.
Tolkien may have wrote, "Not all those who wander are lost," but you really don't want to be lost when you're talking with these employers about these jobs.
Good reference today. All right. Now, probably why a lot of people are tuned in today and in the future is because half of it is being prepared. So you are preemptively getting everything together, and now you want to be prepared for your actual interview. You've got it set up. Half of the hurdle is over. Now you need to start preparing for the interview. And I think this is another area we see that can use a lot of improvement. I've done interviews the whole time I've been here at Bender. Gerald has for most of his career as well. I think between us, we probably have about 25 years of interviewing under our belts. And I will say, everyone they come in with a blank slate to me. However, there are things where I go, oh, they didn't do this. One of the things is, do they know about the organization? Always important to know about the organization. If you're applying to a company and you want to work there, know what the company is, know what the company does. Look at their products and services because if you're working in different areas, under what area are you going to be working under? Also, look at their mission, their values, and their culture. Everybody wants to have a great work environment. It's all at our fingertips right now. Take the initiative to go and look into it. Also, any recent news or updates is a huge way to show that you are one that's going to prepare and you are going to go the extra mile and you're also going to be the most informed. So, how hard is it to do a quick Google search or on LinkedIn? If you're on LinkedIn, follow that company. You will see so many news and updates for those companies as well. It's an extra click of a button and a quick skim. Learn more by clicking here and learn more as needed. It really does help and it impresses the people that you're interviewing with. As I just said, I knew I was kind of jumping the gun on this one, but look on LinkedIn, look at news articles. Probably the easiest and the most important one to look at is the company's website. You'll see leadership team on there. You'll see any big news articles that they want to highlight for their organization. You can find testimonials. You can find anything you want. You explore the website, and that's also going to be where you find their products and services and where you find all of the things that's front facing toward the world that they want everyone to know about their company. Another great resource is Glassdoor. Grain of salt with that, but it's a really good resource because it is an open forum. Remember, oftentimes, whenever people are posting specific things on websites, usually people will either put high levels of good or high levels of bad. So just try to keep that with moderation. But I will say it's a good place to kind of get an overall feel for things.
One thing, just to jump in here,
Yeah.
to keep in mind with this and everything on this is we're all about competitive employment here at Bender. Your interview is a competition. You have to look at what can I do for each of these things to stand out from the other people that are interviewing for the same job that I'm interviewing for. These are people that are going to have similar backgrounds as you, similar experience, similar education. How do you make yourself in that interview stand out from the crowd? Bad candidates are going to not do any research. You do not want to fall into that group. You know, Good candidates are going to do what everyone tells you to do for research. Read the website. That's the bare minimum. How do you stand out and go above and beyond that? That's where these other things like those news articles and things come in. The recent positive stories of what's happening in the company today. That particular manager and what their team's doing because you've looked on that LinkedIn profile Jill talked about. You go those extra miles and you make yourself even more prepared to stand out from your competition so that you go in a winner.
All right. I have a feeling, Gerald, you're going to want to talk a
Yeah,
lot about this one. So
I'll jump.
I'm going to let you have this one if that's okay.
I appreciate that. Yeah, this is one of the key things I tell people that can really how you can prepare and be ready to interview is understanding the job you're going into and being prepared to talk about you and how you fit this role, what the key responsibilities are, what the skills are, what are the important key words that are going to matter for that job. And what I tell everybody to do when they go to interview to connect these things, take your resume, take the job description and put them side by side. Go through your resume line by line and ask yourself this question out loud for every single thing you have on your resume, every skill, every education, every sentence of your job description. Why does this make me a fit for this job? And find an answer for every single thing on your resume and say it out loud. Because that gets you, number one, really comfortable talking about your background, but connecting who your background is to the things that fit that job description you have right there and what matters to that role. Because that means no matter what they talk about on the job, or no matter what they talk about in your resume that they can ask you about now, you've already done the work. You're prepared to talk about any of those things and how they connect that shows you are a good candidate for this role. You've laid the groundwork and you can do it, but you've got to connect and do it really mindfully to connect those key important things that make someone successful in the role. So, really important exercise to go through to match those experiences together. And I'm sure there's other creative ways you can do that, but you got to bring that together so you feel confident how you can talk about you and the role and how you can serve this job and be the right person for them to pick.
And if I can just add to that, I just want to reiterate one of the things Gerald said, say it out loud, write it
Yeah.
down, type it up. Don't just say, oh, yeah, I know this in my brain. It takes that extra little bit of you putting it into a different medium, whether it's spoken word, written word, typed word, to really help bring that into your memory too, so that at the time of the interview, you're not sitting there trying to flip through every note that you've taken. You want to come prepared, and saying it out loud is the easiest way to do it. And it might seem a little silly at first, but it is such an amazing tool for everybody to use, just to be able to say, how is this relevant? How does this connect to the role? Remember, you're trying to match your experience to the role, and how does it match? And you being able to do that will help you formulate every answer in the interview.
Plus, you hear your own voice, and you're going to have to use your own voice in the interview, anyways. Professional appearance, so important.
I think a lot of times right now, people think, especially for virtual interviews, that maybe the appearance isn't as important. It is.
Uh-huh.
First impressions matter. I wrote it down, but I cannot say it any better. You will always leave a lasting impression. And we've always been told dress for the job you want. If you want to come in and look like you just kind of haphazardly got out of bed and and turned on your computer, they're going to note that too. So you want to look professional if you're trying to get a professional role. So professional and polished. That means I took the time. That shows me that the candidate cared enough to put the effort in, that they understand the importance of the conversation that we have, that this is going to be for something that could move them to the next step in their career. And they're taking it as seriously as I want them to take it because I want to find the best candidate for the position we're trying to fill. So clean and well-fitting clothing. Clean is surprisingly very important, simply because once again, it shows that you put that effort forward. And then always, like we said, dress for the job you want. So dressing maybe a little bit more than even they would think is formal. I'm not saying anyone should come in a top hat and a tuxedo, but definitely it's better to wear a collared shirt than a t-shirt, and it's better to wear a button down with a tie. So you just got to think about, how am I representing myself? Because you and everything you do in an interview is a representation of the potential employee you could be.
And I'll just add here, I've heard some chatter from people extraneously about not needing to wear a suit to some interviews, depending on the type of the job. I've heard people give people that advice. In my near 20 years doing this, and Bender's placed thousands of people with disabilities in the jobs all over the US, all different types of roles, from park rangers to people in distribution centers to people in executive roles, all kinds of things. I have never once heard of a manager that we've worked with ever complaining or giving feedback that somebody was overdressed, that somebody showed up in a suit. Ever. Not a single time in our whole history. I've only ever seen people impress people when they show up in a suit for an interview. So I know people say that, but I just don't agree with that advice that a suit is not going to impress in an interview, that you should try to match something else. I think a business suit, you cannot go wrong with that in an interview. To a nice, clean, well pressed suit, like that attire to really knock it out for an interview will serve you well.
To avoid. And I know we kind of touched on some of these, but I did want to also bring this in here just because, like Gerald just said, I've never heard it either. And anyone ever saying, I can't believe they dressed up for the interview. Um, Overly casual clothing. Look at your shirt. If you are wearing a graphic hoodie that says, I don't care, it is telling the potential employer lots of things about you. And sometimes I think, you just throw on whatever and you maybe don't think about those things. This is not about, well, I didn't notice it. It's about, how do I want them to see me and how do I want to be presented to them? You have the control over this. So coming in and showing that you do care, is actually very, very important. Keep accessories to a minimum. I say this because you don't want to distract. Not saying to not express yourself, but if you become the person that wore, a propeller on their hat, that's not really going to be the memory that you want them to have. So you want to make sure the focus is on you, on your experience, on your education, and on your skill set. And the best way to do that is to not distract by having clothing that maybe is distracting or accessories that are distracting. Maintain a neat appearance. Oh, I'm sorry, Gerald, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, on neat appearance, obviously, pressed, ironed, all those things, but goes into this too. Don't have body odor. Don't like smoke a bunch of cigarettes before you go into your interview and smell like cigarettes when you go in. Brush your teeth. I hate that they have to say these things, but I've honestly seen it cost people the job. Don't wear so much cologne or perfume that it's like really pungent when you go in the interview. You got to make sure you are appropriate with these things. And I'll just jump right into the next one too here, professionalism. How you carry yourself is part of your appearance. I'm a musician as well. I went to college music and studied conducting. And if you ever wondered why a conductor leaves the stage before they walk back out to conduct the next piece, it's because the moment they walk on that stage, they are supposed to represent the piece in their body language that they are about to conduct. And when you walk into that interview, you need to represent how you want to be seen and how you carry yourself and how you speak and how you communicate. If you walk in and you're like, "Hi, I guess I'm going to interview now," versus, "Hey, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm really excited that you gave me this chance to interview. Thank you so much." All these things that how you carry yourself and the professionalism you carry yourself with on that interview will make the difference.
Oh, one more thing that I completely forgot about. I'm sorry. Need appearance. If you have facial hair, you do not need to get rid of your facial hair, but make sure it is neat. Having
Absolutely.
scraggly facial hair is another way of saying, I didn't really care that much about this. That's the way it comes across, regardless if that's what you mean. So you want to show in your actions and in your preparation, being prepared, and then also coming and looking for the job that you want. You got to look the part. So that was when I had on my notes and I forgot to say earlier.
Good point.
All right, virtual interview tips, because how many of us today are doing virtual? So many virtual interviews. Additionally, you still want to dress professionally. Once again, I know we shouldn't have to say it, but top and bottom, you need to dress professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody that once was interviewing and thought it was okay to dress professionally on top. And they had a connection problem. They just got up and reached over to fix the connection problem. And everybody saw that they were not dressed as professionally. I think they were in pajama pants on the bottom. And yeah, it can be funny once you're in a team, but when you're doing it, just dress professionally, even though you're at home. Make sure that you take the time to still do that. Think about it beforehand. Look good during your interview. That also means good lighting. Make sure that you are not in the dark to the point where your screen can't focus on you. Um, Clean backgrounds. There's virtual backgrounds like I have. There is blurs, but if you just have, all the chaos of everyday life just kind of sitting out there for everyone to see, they may get distracted by that, or they may say they have no ability to filter, or this may be a liability. So you want to represent yourself well, and that includes making sure that your background is clean. Every one of them, whether it be Google Meet or Teams or Zoom, they have those fake backgrounds. Take the time to set them up if that's what you want to use, or find a place, a quiet place in your home or wherever you're doing it to make sure that the background is not going to be distracting and everything else isn't. And then test. Oh, I'm sorry, go
Sorry,
on.
just to reiterate this point for Joe, use a clean, simple background. Not something that a lot of times people pick something they think is funny or to show off their personality in their background. Don't do that in the interview. Like Joe said, it can be distracting, and you don't want your interviewer paying attention to your background when they should be paying attention to you. Because if they're looking at your background because they think it's cool, instead of listening to what you're saying and why you're a good candidate, they'll miss out on why you're a good candidate and important things that could get you the job. Focus
And
on you.
yes, and test your setup. We say test your setup, and we're going to be talking about this in a minute about getting to the interview on time, but do this in advance. Make sure everything works well and looks well too. If it's in Google, if it's in Teams, if it's in Zoom, if it's in any, most of the platforms have a free trial. You do not need to pay for it. Nobody wants you to get a subscription just to be able to attend an interview, but you should be able to at least try and do a trial run. Have somebody that you trust that can be on the other end that can say, looks good, lighting's good, background looks great. Takes a couple minutes, once again, a couple minutes of your time to invest in the potential for your future is worth it. Plan the logistics. When we and Gerald talk to people and we're doing prepping everybody for interviews, I think everyone is so focused on getting in there and talking about themselves that a lot of times they don't really think into the details that can really make or break an interview. If it's in person, know where you're going, know how to get there, know how long it's going to take. Do not show up late for an interview. Don't show up late for an interview. If you show up late for an interview, once again, everyone's with a blank slate. If they come in late, I go, is it a time management thing? Is that going to affect different projects that they're working on so that you're already starting to spiral, before you even get that first impression? Or was this not important enough to them? Drive it ahead of time if you can. Go to the place, make sure you know where to park. If it's in the city, okay, I see that Google Maps says it's going to take me 30 minutes to get there, but that's just to get there. What about where you're going to leave your car? And then how long is it going to take you to walk from where you're parking to the place? Are you going to be late then? These are logistics that everyone says, I think it should be okay. It's better to know than to think it's going to be okay. And arriving early, and everyone can debate on how early is too early. If you get there too early and you have to hang out in your car for a little bit, it's a lot better than showing up late. You don't want to necessarily show up 2 hours early and ask for your interviewer, but showing up 15, 20, sometimes even 30 minutes early, letting the receptionist know that you're there. It shows that you are a person who is prepared. It shows that you said, I'm going to make sure that I'm there on time to the point where I'm early. And if they're early, we can do this early because I'm excited for this position.
A few things to underscore with this, like Jill said, that test run, actually go, if you've never been there, do that test run. If you can get there, make sure you know where to go, make sure you know where the parking is. I can tell you, I don't know how many times somebody who didn't know where they were going got lost. Some of these business places are confusing with all the multiple buildings and stuff. If you're late because you got lost, it's not going to matter. You were the one who were late. It'll cost you the job. And now, if you take public transportation and that's hard for you, guess what? There's other things you can do. You can go on Google Maps and you can go into Street View where it shows you what it's like from the street. And you can walk through what it would be like to take public transportation there virtually. I would tell people to do this all the time in the interview when we were preparing to interview to see where's the bus stop? Where do I get off? Where do I need to walk to get there? And go through that experience virtually on the computer. So that way you aren't figuring that out the day of the interview and taking a chance you aren't going to get that job. And that can be planning early buses to get there early. Once again, the interviewer is not going to care that your bus didn't show up. What's your backup plan? If you miss it because of the world gets in the way, well, guess what? The world will get in the way when you have a job too. If that causes you to be late all the time, you're not going to keep your job. So you have to show that you will find a way to be there and make it to that appointment. And because guess what? The people you're competing against, this is a competition. They're going to be there. So if you're late, chances are you're not going to get the job. You got to get there. I would tell people get there an hour early, find a coffee shop or your
Mhm.
car and hang out and then go in that 15 to 20 minutes early, like Jill said, when the appropriate time is. So you don't take any chance.
And if there is an extenuating circumstance, which I hope there's never going to be an extenuating circumstance, because those are usually, disasters or accidents, things like that. Make sure you have your contact information, the person who you were in connection with to set up the interview. Hey, I'm sure you saw the news, but there's a big, uh, accident on the parkway, and I'm stuck in this traffic. I'm calling you now because I want you to know how important this is to me. And you don't call them at the time of the interview, and you don't call them 10 minutes after the interview is supposed to start. You call them when you were hoping to get there. Oh gosh, I'm not going to be my 15 to 20 minutes early. That's when you call them. You're showing respect for their time, you're showing importance for the interview, and you're showing that you want this job, most importantly. Virtual interviews, we talked about it a little bit. It's still just as important. Test the platforms, Zoom, Teams, all of them, whichever one it is. You don't want to have them troubleshoot with you. Check your internet connection. Make sure that it's good. Make sure that it's strong. Make sure that you're not going to freeze and that you can still be on camera. You have to be on camera for virtual interviews, or else it could just be a phone call. You want to be on camera. So check that internet connection because it doesn't need additional bandwidth. If it's not working, see if you can get a hotspot from your phone or see if you're able to, be able to find another way to do this because making sure you have that connection is going to make it so you can or cannot get on that call. If there is a problem, once again, just like if there's a disaster, let's say there's a big storm and it knocks out the connection, you want to find your contacts information as soon as possible, saying, hey, a tree knocked down the power lines here. I am really trying to get connected. I just want to make sure everyone's aware. I might not have as much bandwidth and make sure that they are aware of it too. You don't want to call them 100 times, but if there's a problem where you want to show respect for their time. So if there's a big problem that may make things a little difficult, you want to give them a heads up. Test your microphone and your camera as well. Once again, the interview is not the time to troubleshoot. Find a quiet location. If you live in a house with other people and you're doing an interview and the other people stop your interview, hey, where's the remote? Did this candidate not tell them? Were they not excited about this interview? Does everyone not know? Go find a quiet room. If the dog's going to bark at the door, let him out. If he's going to be outside the door and barking at the door, but he'll be quiet inside, let him in. I know pets, I'm probably one of my weaknesses is seeing other people's pets on virtual interviews. I love it. But not everybody is the case, so you don't necessarily want to bring them in, but try to make sure that they're quiet because you want to say, I am focused on this interview. I am dedicated to giving you the answers that you want so that you can pick me for this opportunity. And like we said before, professional background, whether it's a clean area or whether you find a background, a virtual background you can use, nothing too busy. They seem so simple, but each and every one of these are on here for a reason. Like I said, between mine and Gerald's experience, I think we have had every single one of these things pop up to the point where like, you know what, let's make sure that the next person knows better. And now here you are getting this wealth of knowledge. Big tips. Overall, don't overlook this. Everything about this preparation, please do not overlook this. Make sure you do this part. It is so important to plan ahead because if you don't plan ahead, that may make or break the decision on whether or not you are the person selected for the job. I cannot reiterate this enough. It is just so important. each and every one of these steps, virtual versus in person. You want to make sure that you are prepared. All right. And now the meat of the sandwich. We've got the parts of an interview.
Could I take the slide, Jill?
Please.
So, how you kick off the interview is so important because when you introduce yourself, you make that first impression. It's impossible to get that first impression back. And you got to get that ball rolling in the right direction. Like I talked a little bit about earlier, how you carry yourself matters, but what you say matters too. First of all, you got to thank them. You got to say thank you. No one wants to be, you got to say thank you so much for bringing me in for this interview. Show them why you're grateful for this role, why you're a fit for this role in your background and what you've got, and why you want this job and what you're looking for. And everyone's going to start an interview usually with you with some version of tell me about yourself. And that's how I start my interviews. And I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. That's my first test. It's an open-ended question for a reason. I want to see what people choose to say. There's no wrong answer. It's more about how you approach answering this question. You want to talk about your professional background. You want to focus on why you're a good candidate and why you're a good fit for this role. But you also don't want to talk forever. You want to be concise and be prepared because everybody can expect that when you go into an interview, you're going to have to tell them about yourself. I'll sometimes do an interview and I'll ask somebody, tell me about yourself. And then I'll just wait for them to finish answering that question. And I wait and I wait. And 30 minutes will go by and I still have not spoken and they're still answering that question. You need a concise answer, the elevator speech version of the answer, like Jill said, where if you can, keep it to 30 seconds of your background, what you're looking for, and why you're interested in this role so that it can get to the meat of the interview itself and just be the introduction, first impression, and move on.
And if I could just add to that or pile on that, keep it to what this position is. Remember,
Yes.
every part of this interview is showing how you are a good fit for this job. Making friends is nice. It's a nice bonus if you can do that too. But first and foremost, who you are as it relates to this job, what your background is as it relates to this job, what you're looking for, it better relate to this job, and why you're interested in this role because of this job. Keep that in mind. So when you're going through your resume, as we talked about in the beginning, and you're going through all those different things, you want to make sure that you draw on those and be concise. And like Gerald said, please try to keep it minimal because you're going to have additional questions and you want it to be a conversation and you want to hear what the interviewer is asking you because that's going to be insight to exactly what they care about and what is important to them for this job.
So if you're interviewing for a role in, you know, IT or sales, don't tell them your dreams to be an executive chef at a restaurant because they're going to think you don't want that role. Folk, that's another part of that. Keeping on this job, that's a mistake people make. Focus on the job. That's another way of focusing on the job. Don't talk about other jobs you want. All right, we can go to the next slide, Jill.
Okay.
Thanks.
Answering the interview questions. Be present first and foremost. There is people often do what it's called tennis listening, right? Where you're listen to maybe half of it because what you're doing is you're formulating your answer based on what you assume they're about to ask you. Please be there and listen to those questions. The questions that you're being asked in an interview is because they're trying to find out critical information to see whether you're the best candidate for this opportunity. So make sure you listen. There's a lot of different types of questions out there, experience-based, behavioral, problem-solving, situational. And I put on here, best strategy is still STAR method. Until something better is out there, this STAR method that they taught everybody, in grade school, well, maybe not grade school, in high school though, is still the best way to answer the question because it
Mm-hmm.
keeps it relevant to the job. So you want to think about the situation, the task, the action, and the result. When you're going over your resume and you're preparing, you're going to start thinking about different things that have come up. And when something comes up multiple times, when you're thinking about how is my resume relating to this job description, those are the times that would be excellent to be able to use it in your answers as an example. Focus on specific examples.
And
Focus on measurable results. And focus on lessons that you've learned and how you've improved. If you end a question, tell me about a time that you didn't get along with your boss, and you sit there and you complain about your old boss for 5 minutes, that does not show that you are a positive person, a good employee, and that you're able to navigate difficult situations. What you need to do is you need to show how that resulted positively for you and for the former employer that you worked at. How did you learn a lesson? How did you improve? Make sure that you come prepared with examples that you can use in multiple different areas. And then I cannot iterate this enough. Please, please listen to their questions, the whole question.
and with that STAR method, go online, just find behavioral interview questions and practice once again out loud using the STAR method so you know you're good at using it. This is one of these tools you get in your tool belt that you're not memorizing the answers to questions. You're getting used to using the tool and sharpening your skill at using the STAR method tool. The reason Marines are so good at their job is because they've trained so well that when unexpected situations pop up, they can fall back on their training. And you want to be that way in your interview, that you've prepared with these tools that no matter what question they ask you, you've got training to fall back on. Even if you're anxious going in the interview, you've got training to fall back on, that you've done this prep, that it'll help you knock that interview out of the park.
All right, part 3 of the interview. So we've already talked about your introduction. Now they're asking the questions. After that, you are demonstrating that you're a good employee. What employers want to see: reliability, teamwork, problem solving, communication, and adaptability. And if I were to rank these, I really don't think I could. They're all
No.
really important because there's going to be situations that are unforeseen. How are you going to be able to navigate around them? Are you going to be able to solve the problem? How are you going to be able to communicate effectively? Adaptability in every industry, especially now, is huge because everything is constantly changing. Teamwork. No matter where you are not an island, unless, of course, it's your own company that you are the sole person working, where you are not selling anything, which is not going to really be good for a revenue of your company. It's going to be really difficult to not have to interact with other people. You need to be able to rely on other people and also make sure that they can rely on you. Reliability is attendance, but it's more than just that. It's saying if you have something assigned to you, you'll get it done. Show this. Do not just say, I'm reliable. I'm great at teamwork. I'm also really good at problem solving. Look at me, I'm communicating right now. How adaptable was that? That's not going to be a great way to demonstrate this. You want to share examples in your work history or in your educational history if you need to, that can show that you have those different soft skills. how you handled challenges, how you were able to improve either your work ethic or the actual work that you did, how you were able to support others. All of these things you need to show. It's not just telling, you have to show through examples. You have the time to prepare a narrative that can really reflect well on you and make you look like a standout candidate. Prepare ahead of time on ways you can demonstrate that you are a good employee. Show how you contribute, and I say this as a tip, show how you contribute to the workplace, not just what tasks you perform. Remember, these are businesses. They are in the business of providing a good or a service. You need to show how you're able to contribute to that workplace to provide whatever it is that they are doing. Part four, end. All right. Always ask questions at the end. Always ask questions at the end. And I'll say it one more time. Have a
I'm
question prepared to ask at the end.
I'm just I want to talk about the mindset of asking questions too. Do not ask questions that serve you to get something out of the job. Like, I'm going to start with the avoid part: salary, benefits, work schedule. Everybody is like, oh my gosh, I need to know these things. No, you don't. You need to get a job offer because none of those things matter if you don't get a job offer. So ask questions that help you get a job offer because you can find out all those other things once you get that offer to decide what to do from there. Um, Questions like what Jill has on here on these beautiful slides that she's put together. What does success look like in the role? So they show you're thinking about, what do I need to do to be successful? What does a day look like? And you can even get more granular, find your own versions of these that really think about this. In my first 90 days, what do I need to do to really knock it out of the park? You know, I want to be prepared on my first day. What can I do if I get this job? What can I do outside of my time, in my free time? What courses can I take online? What books can I read? What can I study to make sure I'm really prepared on day one? Those types of questions have them thinking, wow, what a great candidate. Those are the types of questions you want to ask that make an impact.
I'll also say asking questions about, well, I want this job, but really I want this other job that you guys have is not the best way to sell
No,
yourself. Because what you're doing is you're saying, you can hire me for this, but you're going to be hiring somebody else in a couple of months. Another thing that a lot of people do, I'm a talker. I will just kind of have an open dialogue, conversation. And these questions, the good kind of questions, are things that may just come up naturally in the conversation. And at the end, you go, oh, I answered all these questions already. Have something that you know might be a little outside the box to keep in your back pocket, just in case. I always say, talk to the interviewer. They already work there. Ask them about what they like about the company culture. Ask them what's one thing that they would tell everybody that they wish they would have known when they were going through the interview process about the company that makes it such a great place to work. You're saying, I'm interested in the company. I'm interested in the culture because I can see myself being there. So if you kind of hit all these, where what does success look like, or what does a typical day look like, or what's the next steps? And you go, oh, I already answered all those. Make sure you have something else that can still have a dialogue and still be relevant to the job and the organization. What you want to show is that you really want to be there. And that is the way to do it, is to have these conversations and to draw out additional information. Learning about the workplace culture, and I know it's a big buzzword, but learning about the culture of a workplace can also help you as a candidate decide, is this going to be the best fit for me? Because this is an interview, you're also learning a lot about the role. You can read a job description 100 times, but having the interview and having the conversation where they give you more details about the job and ask pointed questions that are really good hints as to what the job will be about is going to be a great way for you to learn about it too, because you want to say, oh, just reading the job description, this sounds great. And then you go into the interview and then you learn more about it and you're like, I can do that. I can do that. And you want to express that, show them that, and then also learn about the actual workplace. So it's okay. There is so many resources out there for additional questions to ask at the end of an interview. Do not hesitate when you're doing your research to make sure you have a couple additional questions that may not necessarily come up during the interview, just in case your regularly scheduled questions do. Because like I said, sometimes conversations just go and you connect with an interviewer and you already had a lot of these and you're like, oh no, I used all my questions up. You want to make sure you still have one too. You don't want to waste it either. You don't want to say, well, what's your dog's name or anything like that. That's, not going to be relevant to you. You still want to make it relevant to the company, relevant to the position, all of those important things you still want to do.
And remember, oh, I'm going to the next slide, Jill.
Okay.
Remember the three things I said to start the interview? You're going to bring them in at the end of the interview. Thank the interviewer again. Remind them why you want this job and something that makes you a fit for this role. This is what we call the bookends here for the interview. Those strong opener and closer. Because I'll tell you what, as an interviewer, I'm always wondering at the end of the interviewer if this candidate really wants this job. Now that they've learned all the information about it from me, I'm wondering that. So a moment to reaffirm that through a kind moment of gratitude, the specific reason why you want it, and something to remind me why you think you're a good fit can really close that interview out strong before you head out and move on into the next steps, which that next step will be writing a thank you note. Something that's kind of a lost art. Everyone tells people to do this, but it's rare people actually do this in an interview. You want to do it within 24 hours, but really your best window is the same day. Because if there's something that the interviewer's on the fence about when they're deciding about you, that might be the thing that makes the difference in their decision. While it's fresh in your mind, go home and write that thank you note. Reaffirm those same 3 points again. You thank them, mention something that you're interested in the role and why you're a fit, and use something specific from the conversation that you had that day in the interview. So that way they know you wrote that thank you note just for them. It's not something that you already had as a template or that ChatGPT just spit out.
Mhm.
You actually wrote this note special for them to thank them for the interview. Check, make sure there's no typos in it. I actually had somebody not get an interview once because the job was actually a underwriting position and they had typos in their interview thank you note, and it cost them the job because editing was a very important part of the role, and it cost them their job. So make sure it's free of typos, well written, professional. Send it in an email so they get it immediately. If you want to do handwritten, follow up with that too. Those handwritten ones can be very nice, but that timing is of the essence to get it to them right away.
It really just shows that you are courteous and that you are somebody who's really interested and excited for this role. So, some final advice. Preparation builds confidence. I cannot tell you enough. Everyone's nervous during interviews. I know it. every interviewer knows it. If somebody is really interested in the role specifically, they're nervous because they want this to work out. Right now in the job industry, the way everybody's looking for jobs, everybody is trying so hard to really showcase how well they could be a fit for the company. You need to make sure that you're prepared. Be authentic. If you tell everybody that you know how to code in 18 languages, and in reality, you've never really done much work on a computer, especially in coding, it's not going to help you. Focus on showing value. How are you going to be of value to the organization? Once again, because it is and not very, it is an employer market right now. They're looking for where can they get the most value from the person that they select. So make sure you're showing your value. And please remember, interviews are conversations, not interrogations. Everyone thinks that, oh, they're coming at me. No, it's a conversation, and being able to connect and to answer questions effectively and keep it engaging is going to make you a standout candidate.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful webinar. And I just want to once again give a big thank you to sign language interpreting professionals with Savvy here, the best interpreters in America, the best company you can work with, and to Caption First, the best captioners in America who've been captioning all of our events in Joyce's radio show for over 20 years. Two great organizations we partner with amazingly. We're so glad we had you here. We hope this was helpful to you. We'll be posting this on YouTube so you can share it with anyone that you think this can help that's looking for a job today. And also one more shout out to Jill Zomp, who did an incredible job here. Thank you, Jill. Great job putting this presentation together and for originating this idea of hosting this webinar and giving this gift to the community to help during this time to find work. Hope this was helpful to you all. Have a wonderful day. Choose joy, lead on, and take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.